Welcome to the trails, everyone. I'm Scott with BikeRide.com, and today we're looking at one of the most powerful and capable all-terrain full suspension e-bikes on the market. And I'm talking about the QuietKat Jeep Rubicon. Now this is a pretty amazing full suspension bike with some aggressively tuned geometry, a 1000 watt unrestricted Bafang motor powering it, and that motor's putting out an impressive 160 Newton meters of torque, and when combined with the battery, it's able to put out over 1500 watts at peak output. This is really an amazing off-road bike that appears to be designed to take you further and deeper into the backcountry than most e-bikes are capable of. So if you're looking for a place to explore, the QuietKat Jeep Rubicon looks like the bike to do it. We're going to take it out and push it as far up the mountain as we can go and see exactly what the QuietKat Jeep Rubicon is capable of. So what is the QuietKat Jeep Rubicon? Well, to start off, QuietKat are the producers of a range of e-bikes that are designed specifically for hunting, adventuring, and in general, off-road wilderness play. So QuietKat at the top of their lineup has a few full suspension e-bikes that are available. And the Jeep Rubicon is actually the second version of the Jeep e-bike from the brand. So the Rubicon builds on the success of the first Jeep e-bike and adds extended range, a more enhanced and aggressive geometry, and some fine-tunable suspension. At first sight, the Jeep Rubicon is a really nice looking bike, and those component choices and general aesthetics are really what make the bike stand out. Now, as we start to look through the bike more closely, we're going to see that those component choices are really high quality, and it is consistent when you get on there and start taking your first ride. It's really got some mountain bike inspired gear, and a lot of the components are high end. We're talking about a SRAM 9-speed drivetrain with the X5. We've got some very nice Tektro 4-piston hydraulic brakes with mineral oil that are linked up to an absolutely massive set of 203mm rotors, which is bringing us some really excellent stopping power. As we've already mentioned before, we've got that 1000 watt Bafang motor, and just in general, everywhere that you look on this bike, it's a really nicely oriented and nicely aesthetically pleasing bike that has a lot of features that we're going to be looking for out on the trail. Now, it is quite a heavy bike at 75 pounds, so when it's unpowered, it does feel similar to kind of like a small dirt bike. Some of those features that are making it feel like this are those really quite large 26 by 4.8 inch roly-poly tires, which have quite an aggressive tread on them. But as soon as you start to apply power with this bike with that 1000 watt motor, you're going to feel a lot of that melt away, and this thing really turns into an enduro style rig that's very capable climbing steep terrain and coming back down on some really fun descents. The power of the bike is really nicely balanced with some very plush and tunable suspension. In the rear, you've got 150mm of RockShox air travel suspension, and in the front you've got an inverted moto style suspension fork, which is also attributing to some of that dirt bike kind of feel, but is also bringing some really nice enhanced braking ability and some enhanced cornering ability by stiffening up the front end of that bike. So the QuietKat Rubicon Jeep is a bike that's made to take you far into the backcountry and back out again, and it's quite an interesting ride. It's also got a ton of cool accessories, and you've got some really great attachment points on the rear of the frame for things like a rear rack or a trailer. So in general, this is a bike that's designed to do some serious overlanding, hunting, and fishing duty. It's ready to explore, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this thing does in the testing as we get it out on the trail and see exactly what the QuietKat Jeep Rubicon is capable of. Getting started with the pros. The first pro that we have is the fact that we have just endless amounts of power, and that power is perfectly controlled. Now this you can really attribute to that 1000 watt ultra drive Bafang mid-drive motor that we have powering this unit. Now this motor is an absolute powerhouse. It's rated for 1,000 watts at 160 Newton meters of torque. And when it's coupled with this 21 amp hour battery, you can see about 1,500 watts of max output from the unit. Now this is more than enough power to get you to the top of any hill, even if you're fully loaded with that 300-pound gear limit that the bike is capable of pulling. This is one of the bikes where you can truly feel, as you start to apply power onto the pedal, that it just wants to give you power, and it's literally endless. It will just accelerate right past that speed limit of 28 miles an hour and keep on going if you're able to apply enough pedal power. Now, the motor is also very well controlled, and that means that you're able to really feel the fact that it's giving the exact amount of power needed based on the amount of torque that you're applying on the pedal. I found this to be super comfortable in a variety of trail situations, and I never really felt like the QuietKat was slipping that rear tire out so long as I was using the proper power setting and I was really pedaling the way that I should be. It was able to easily grind over slippery terrain like rocks and roots and get me to the top of some pretty technical climbs. You're able to choose from 3 power settings. You've got Eco, Trail, and Boost, and combined with that dual sensor, it's really a pleasant and capable bike that I was able to really do a lot of technical climbs on and have a ton of fun. And the power is really just unrelenting. I could see this bike easily pulling a game trailer or hauling you with a ton of gear on a long ride, and the capabilities are truly endless. The second pro is the ride quality and capability. Now, the Jeep Rubicon from QuietKat is a great looking bike, and the ride is even better. Anyone who's used to riding an all-mountain, enduro, or downhill mountain bike will be very comfortable hopping onto this bike. It's got a really fun and aggressive geometry, and when you're behind the bars, it's very comfortable. Now, don't get me wrong, it is 75 pounds and does have a very large set of 26 by 4.8 inch roly-poly from CST tires. So this is a large tire, and it is going to change the feeling a little bit, but the bike is really nicely weighted and is so powerful that when that power is being applied, the feeling of the weight really melts away, and it's a very responsive and fun ride. Very similar to a lot of enduro and downhill mountain bikes. So you're able to have a ton of fun, and the bike is a great companion whether you're grinding up some steep technical climbs or coming back downhill at high speed. The only place where I found that the bike was a little bit challenging to use was in extremely tight single track situations where sometimes if you didn't have the right tire pressure, you could get those big tires sliding on some off-camber routes, or you might just have to go so slow on the bike that it was really cumbersome and tough to maneuver. But in general, anytime that you were applying power and the bike was in movement, it's very easy to maneuver, and I had a ton of fun riding it. It's nicely weighted, so you're able to pop that front tire and jump over roots and obstacles. You can definitely get this bike up into the air, and you can drop it over some serious terrain when you're coming downhill. The suspension is also very plush, so it's really capable of eating up a ton of bumps and bigger hits, and in general, you're able to push this bike through a ton of different terrain. Even on steep technical climbs, I found that just like a Jeep, all you have to do is air down the tires and grind your way up it, and the bike has more than enough capability to push you deep into the backcountry. So overall, I was super impressed with just how comfortable and fun this bike was to ride in a variety of terrain, and it really made you want to turn the next corner and push further and explore more. And for our final pro, we've got components and just the overall high-end quality of the bike. Pretty much everywhere that you look on the QuietKat Rubicon, whether you're looking at the component choices or if you're looking at just the general aesthetics of the bike, you're gonna see some really great value. Now, it is a pretty high-priced bike, but I really feel that you're getting your money's worth when you look at all the small details that QuietKat has really taken care of. You've got a great geometry, the frame is very durable with some excellent welds, excellent paint, and really nice integration for things like integrated cables and the battery and the key mount. So in general, you have a really well-designed bike that's very pleasant to look at and also very pleasant to use. When you get into the components, you're also going to find that you have that inverted front air suspension fork and a nice 150 millimeter rear air suspension from RockShox. Both of these are going to feature rebound and compression adjustment, and you're also going to have a lockout on that rear shock, so you're getting some more premium components when it comes to the suspension, and you can definitely dial that suspension in to really perform perfectly in any environment. As you start to look into other items like the drivetrain and the brakes, you're also going to find the same high-end components available there, with a really nice set of Tektro Dorado 4-piston hydraulic brakes and a massive set of 203 millimeter rotors, and you've got that SRAM 9-speed X5 drivetrain, as well as that Bafang 1000 watt motor, which is really one of their top motors as far as power and general capability goes. And then even as we continue further down into the small details, on this test model, we had a PNW dropper post, a very nice set of pedals, and those lock-on grips are very pleasant to use, as well as the DK Comfort Plus seat is just a great seat. So right out of the box, I found this bike was really comfortable, very well appointed, and it really felt kind of like a custom setup on a bike, even though this seems to be the stock setup. Now, some of those items like the dropper post and the pedals may not be what you're going to get on the stock setup, but they're what were available on our test model. Now it's time to look at the cons with the QuietKat Jeep Rubicon. This is a very nice high-end bike, and it's been well designed to do a very specific task. So it's going to be kind of tough for us to find a ton of cons with this bike. Having kept that in mind, while we're using it, here's a few things that we think should be highlighted for users if they're looking at the QuietKat Jeep Rubicon. The only item that I could really think to add to the Jeep Rubicon to make it a better bike overall would be a shift sensor. Now, newer users or those not really accustomed to shifting while traveling uphill or using e-bikes may find that with the mid-drive unit, they're able to get some really bad shifts if they try to shift while under power, or if they go into a hill in the wrong gear and then attempt to shift out of it while applying power to that unit. With a powerful motor like this, you could literally spit the chain out the back of this bike. Now, this never happened to us. We found that you were able to use those brake switches to just apply the brakes very lightly and then shift the bike. But some users, if they're not aware of that, may have trouble in the beginning until they get accustomed to exactly how you need to ride and utilize the bike when it has a mid-drive motor with a powerful motor like this. So the presence of a shift sensor may save a few unexpected users in the beginning, and that's really the only thing that I could think to add to a bike like that. The other items that we'd have that you should be aware of that could be rated as cons for this bike are the fact that it's a fairly heavy bike with a large set of tires on it, and that 1000 watt unrestricted motor that we have on this unit is not road legal. The bike is 75 pounds and fairly heavy. This could impact you when trying to lift it onto a rack. It's fairly hard to get up there, and you're not going to really want to carry it a lot of places. Having said that, this is an extremely capable off-road machine that's a full suspension bike designed to carry heavy loads and pull a trailer. So having it weigh less than 75 pounds is probably not really much of an option. But it's still something that users should probably be aware of looking at the bike. Performance-wise, those 75 pounds don't really come into play as the bike is very well designed and powerful, but it does come into play when the bike is unpowered, as it is a pretty heavy unit. It also has a set of very large tires on it. They're a 26-inch by 4.8-inch fat tire. So this is really going to come into play in certain trail situations when you're in tight single track and trying to maneuver, and it could also come into play if you don't have the right tire pressure and you're running too hard of a tire pressure or too soft of a tire pressure. Now, this con can kind of be flipped on its head because QuietKat is pretty cool, and they've made this bike able to accept a more traditional 29-inch wheel set. So you could put a traditional mountain bike tire on this bike and get out there and go for a ride, and you'd probably have a great time. I would love to test this bike with a more traditional tire on it, but without being able to, we do have to mention that this is quite a large and burly tire. But having said that, again, for the purpose of this being an all-terrain adventure bike, that huge tire is really great when you're in soft sand, soft dirt, and it even had amazing performance in snow. So we really have to say that despite the weight of that tire, performance-wise on this bike, it's a great tire, and you have to take these cons with a little bit of give and take, remembering this is a purpose-built bike. The final con that we have for this bike is the fact that that 1,000-watt motor is an unrestricted motor, and so you're not going to be legally allowed to ride this on the road. That means you're going to be limited to ride this bike in areas that you would typically see an off-road vehicle like a dirt bike or an ATV. So that could be a con for this bike, but again, the bike is also available with a 750-watt restricted motor, which you would be able to ride on the road. And you can also go into the controller and you can change those settings to change the max speed, and you could make this bike a class 1, 2, 3, or unrestricted. So what does the Jeep Rubicon e-bike from QuietKat do best? To put it quite simply, this bike absolutely rips up backcountry terrain. It really is the perfect back road companion, and it can handle a whole ton of varied off-road situations. I had no problem climbing some very steep technical climbs. I could get up some great speed and really power through a whole ton of obstacles. It was a confident and very fun bike to ride, whether I was going and climbing up and grinding away over some steep, slippery rocks and roots, or if I was really letting it loose coming back down. And I could see this being the perfect backcountry companion for anyone who has a mind to do some serious exploring, hunting, or fishing. In general, if you have a desire to go deep into the backcountry, the Jeep Rubicon from QuietKat will take you there. It's a very diverse and capable bike, and one of the most powerful and capable e-bikes that I've ever ridden. So who should buy the Jeep Rubicon from QuietKat? This is a great bike for adventure seekers, hunters, and anglers that want to get out in the backcountry and want to have a nice high-end bike with some excellent components and great aesthetics. It's going to be an especially great choice for those that are already comfortable on a mountain bike and are looking for an e-bike that has a similar inspired kind of modern mountain bike feeling while getting the best performance and capability possible. So it's really going to be an amazing fit for all of those types of people, and QuietKat has really tailored this bike for the outdoor enthusiast, even offering a ton of accessory packages to really tailor it even more for hunting, angling, and overlanding. So this is going to be a great bike for getting out in the wilderness and really enjoying what there is out there. So who shouldn't buy the QuietKat Jeep Rubicon e-bike? Pretty much the only reason to not buy this bike is if you don't need it. If you're not planning on doing some serious adventure seeking, hunting, and fishing, and want to have the best and most capable e-bike available, don't mind spending the money, then you probably don't need this bike. Other than that, you're going to find a ton of reasons to buy the bike. The only other reason to not get it is the fact that this 1,000-watt motor is an unrestricted motor, and you're not going to be able to ride it on the road legally. So if you're looking to ride this bike on the road, you're probably going to want to look at that 750-watt restricted version. A lot of what makes the QuietKat Jeep Rubicon e-bike a ton of fun to ride comes down to that frame, and it's really a well-built frame that's going to be designed to hold up to some great off-road abuse. I mean, we've got a really nice full suspension frame here with 150 millimeters of travel in the rear and an inverted front suspension fork, and this is a very robust frame. I mean, just take a look at that rear triangle and the linkage, and you can really see that this bike is built to take some abuse. You also have some really nicely positioned attachment points for the rear rack and the rear trailer that are still going to allow that full suspension to get its full travel even while you're towing a load. So in general, I was impressed looking at the frame, from the welds, the way that the paint's done. Everything about this bike is just really high quality. You have some really plush suspension that's giving you a very smooth ride. That inverted front suspension fork with 140 millimeters of front suspension also has a nice set of integrated bash guards protecting the lower fork. So it's just a nice extra feature to have on there. And having that inverted front suspension fork is going to stiffen up the front end of the bike, which is going to give you better braking performance and better cornering, which is definitely some useful attributes when we're talking about a heavier, big bike like this. And then on the back, we have that 150 millimeter rear suspension from RockShox, and that does have a lockout as well as rebound adjustment. And it's really nice to see that adjustability with the air pressure. So you've got a nice quality rear shock on this bike. So just all around, it's a really nicely appointed frame. We've got a nice aggressive modern geometry here that's very responsive and works really well on the trail. Some really nice linkage and some nice attachment points for those accessories that are offered from the brand. The M620 motor from Bafang is truly a powerhouse. This motor is capable of putting out over 1,000 watts and 160 Newton meters of torque. So this is more than enough power to push you to the top of really any hill, and it's even going to be capable of towing a trailer and pulling you up there laden down with cargo. In general, most e-bikes that I ride, I can find the top speed. I can find where that motor is able to stop giving you power. But with this motor, it felt like it just wanted to keep on giving. The more power you applied to the pedal, the more power the motor applied, just whipping you along at high speed. So it was a ton of fun to ride. And I found with that dual sensor technology in the controller, the motor was very responsive, and I was really able to give the right amount of power given in the situation to be a confident climber no matter what. I was able to climb some really slippery terrain confidently and even see great performance in deep snow. So this is a wonderful motor, and it's really a great unit on the bike. The only downside to the motor is the fact that it is a little bit of a louder motor, but when you're talking about something so robust and set up to really pull a load, this motor is really going to perform, and at no point did I feel like it wasn't giving me more than enough power and torque for any situation. In the 0 to 20 mile an hour test, at the boost level, we achieved a time of only 4 seconds. And in the 0 to 28 mile an hour test, we achieved a time of 6.5 seconds. The motor was also very strong in our hill climb, coming in with the best times that we've had so far. In our short hill climb, we had a total time of 39 seconds over a distance of 0.15 miles with an elevation gain of 85 feet at a max grade of 18%. And we were able to do that climb at an average speed of 15 miles an hour. In our long hill climb, we again beat our best time with a total time of 1 minute and 19 seconds for a total distance of 0.3 miles at an elevation gain of 210 feet, a max grade of 18%, and an average speed of 13.4 miles an hour. The Jeep Rubicon e-bike has a nicely set up cockpit, and it's very easy to use and control. So we've got a pretty classic set of riser bars with a nice 50 millimeter stem. So we have a pretty common mountain bike feel, very responsive on the handlebars. And sitting on those handlebars, we've got a nice set of aluminum levers with reach adjustment from Tektro. We also have a dropper post, and we have our shifter, which is the X5 from SRAM, and a nice set of lock-on grips. Coming over to the display, we have a nice large LCD display which offers some customization, and that's controlled by a 5-button controller over on the side. And those buttons are very easy to use. We've got a clear on and off button, so pressing and holding that on and off button is going to turn the unit on and off. And then you've got the plus and minus button there. That's going to change your ride mode from eco to trail and up to boost and back down again. If you were to press and hold that down button, you're going to find that that's going to activate the walk mode, and releasing that button is going to turn that walk mode off. Now pressing the information button is going to rotate through some of the information available on that display, such as the odometer, your average speed, trip, and even something like calorie burn. And then if you were to click that information button twice, that's going to take you in to the extra settings that we have available for the display. And you're going to see that you're able to change some customizations, such as the battery level, whether that's a percentage, and a few other settings. So we have a little bit of a customization in there. And overall, it's just a very simple unit to use. The Jeep Rubicon is powered by a 48 volt, 21 amp hour battery, and we found that this was well matched and suited to the bike and could perform well in any environment. So we even found that this battery was capable of performing well in 0-degree temperatures and some very cold temperatures, even when left in that cold temperature overnight, which was very impressive. So if you're taking this battery out on an overnight trip, you can expect to get good performance out of it. We were able to get 30 miles out of the bike using it in boost mode the entire time with a pretty incredible elevation gain. So I think that we've proven that the bike is capable of the ranges claimed by the brand, and that you can really expect this bike to take you deep into the woods and back out again on your next trip. So the bike and battery are well paired and well suited. In the range test for the QuietKat Jeep Rubicon, we got one of the furthest tests that we've gotten so far, with an almost 29-mile total range at 28.37 miles over a total time of 2 hours and 37 minutes, and that included 2,952 feet of elevation gain. So this was a pretty grinding backcountry ride. We had lots of low speed technical climbing, and we were really capable of traveling a long distance off-road and coming right back out again with the range test for the QuietKat. So next up, we've got the charger and key access. So the charger for this bike is a 2 amp 54.6 volt, and that plugs into your standard 110 volt US style outlet. And we were able to charge the battery fully in approximately 8 hours. Now, as standard, you can either choose to remove the battery from the bike, or you can charge it while it's on the battery from that attached charging port, which is located on the lower part of the down tube. Removing the battery is pretty easy. It is good to note that with the QuietKat, you do need to use that key both for removal and installation of the battery, as you use the key to lock the battery in place. This means that it's very secure, and you're really not going to worry about that battery ever coming out of the bike, and the battery is really nicely held while you're going over some bumpy off-road terrain. So removal and installation is quite easy. You just insert the key, turn it to unlock the battery, and then you're going to remove that battery fully by turning the thumb knob underneath and removing that battery out. Installation back in goes exactly the opposite way. You're just going to click that battery into place and then turn the key to lock it. Coming to the drivetrain for the QuietKat Jeep Rubicon, we've got a SRAM X5 drivetrain with a 40-tooth 170mm front crankset and an 11 to 40-tooth rear 9-speed cassette. This leaves you lots of gearing available for some steep climbs as well as some high-speed descents, and I found that the bike was really well suited to a variety of terrain, and the shifting was quite pleasant and crisp with that SRAM X5 shifting and derailleur. So it's a great setup, and I enjoyed the drivetrain on the QuietKat. It's a big, powerful bike, and we have an equally powerful braking setup on the QuietKat Jeep Rubicon. So it's a pretty impressive setup that we've got going on here. We've got a set of Tektro Dorado 4-piston hydraulic brakes, which are using mineral oil. Really nice to see the mineral oil here, as it's a nicer and easier bleeding process than some of those dot liquids. And then we've got those linked up to an absolutely massive set of 203mm rotors. So this is the type of braking setup that you would see on an aggressive downhill bike. I think this is a great braking setup to see, and it's really a premium setup in mind with the rest of the bike, so they're keeping that quality level, and I never found this braking setup lacking at any point. So in general, very impressed with the brakes that we've got on the QuietKat Rubicon, and I don't think that anyone is going to find any fault with these massive set of brakes. Looking at the wheel set on the QuietKat Jeep Rubicon, we've got an absolutely massive set of CST roly-poly tires. These are coming in as a 26 by 4.8 inch tire, and although they are huge, I found that the performance was really great across varied terrain. So you can really dial in the tire pressure to get great traction on some really steep, slippery climbs, and we saw really good performance in some slippery sand and even in deep snow. So this is really a diverse tire, and it's going to carry you across a whole bunch of different terrain. And I had a ton of fun on this bike with this tire. You can really air it down and get some great performance out of it. It's also really cool that QuietKat offers the ability to change over this wheel set to a more traditional 29-inch wheel set, so you could get a more standard mountain bike tire on there. So I was happy with the wheel set as they were, although they were a little bit large in some tight single track. It more than made up for itself with traction in a variety of other terrain, and really great to see the ability to change out that wheel set if you wanted to. When it comes to contact points on the QuietKat Jeep Rubicon, I was very happy with them. We've got a nice set of lock-on grips that are comfortable to use and also match the aesthetic of the bike really well. We had also a nice set of flat pedals that I don't think are the standard pedals that are going to come with this bike. It looks like out of the box you're probably going to get a set of flat Well-Go pedals, but we had a nice set of flat pedals on our test model. We also had a dropper post from PNW, and we had a very nice DK Comfort Plus seat, which I was impressed with right out of the box. It's not too big of a seat, but it's quite comfortable to sit on, and I don't think you would need to change this seat, so you can really get right out on the trail with the QuietKat Jeep Rubicon, and we're seeing the same quality level in those other accessories or contact points as we are in all of the main components of the bike. And finally, when it comes to the accessories for the QuietKat Jeep Rubicon, we've got a pretty amazing set of accessories that are offered by the brand QuietKat. They've done a really great job with this. As we can see, you've got a couple special kits that you can buy right off the bat with the bike to set it up, whether you want to set it up for hunting with things like gun mounts and automatic pannier racks that can come and pop on and off. You can also set it up for fishing, or you can set it up as an overlander. So look at that amazing solar panel setup that you can get with this bike. So a really cool set of accessories that I would recommend just going to the website and taking a look at the accessories you can get with this bike if you're interested in it, because you can really customize this bike to be a workhorse, whether you're hunting, fishing, or looking to put in some serious overlanding miles. The Jeep Rubicon from QuietKat is, simply put, a lot of fun to ride. This really is the ultimate backroads monster, and it's a full suspension beast capable of carrying you far into the backcountry and back out again. Everything about this bike is really on a premium level, and it's a very pleasant companion when you're exploring those backcountry trails. It's able to power you straight up steep technical climbs, whether you're grinding away or trying to reach the highest speed that you possibly can with that 1,000-watt Bafang motor, and you've got some really nice components, whether it's those Tektro 4-piston hydraulic brakes or the SRAM 9-speed drivetrain. And in general, this bike is just a ton of fun, and it's a great backcountry companion. So I really could see a lot of hunters, fishers, and adventure seekers having a ton of fun on this bike. And if you're looking for the absolute best, then you're gonna find it in the QuietKat Jeep Rubicon e-bike. So this is a ton of fun to ride, and I can see us taking this out for a few more rides before we have to give this bike back to the company. This bike for you. Check out the detailed specs and see the full review at bikeride.com. And while you're there, you can also check out other great bikes and e-bike reviews and see them rated to find your perfect match. If you like this review, leave us a like and subscribe so we can make more great e-bike and bike related content. As always, I'm Scott, and I hope you enjoy the ride.